thrilled to be joined by Gemma Greaves. Today we're actually faced with one of the real industry evangelists, and joining us and sharing her story. She sat before as the CEO of the Marketing Society and has gone on to do amazing things like co-found the Nurture and Cabal.
Cabal.
Oh, I was about to say, I might be pronouncing that correctly.
We always have that debate. What is it with it? Cabal. It doesn't have a bowel movement in it, it's just Cabal.
Yeah. Okay, well, I actually like that you're going to bridge me into my next question. So it's really a pleasure to meet you.
You too.
So now tell me a little bit more about this. Tell me a little bit more about what you do.
So, thank you for that intro, by the way. That was very nice. I enjoyed that. So, in a nutshell, I believe in life, if you bring good people together, good stuff happens. And so everything we do at Nurture and Cabal is about connecting people and curating experiences to drive change. That's what I do, and have a lot of fun doing it, and did it at the Marketing Society as well for many years. But we wanted to set up a business where it's things that we love to do, it's things we're pretty good at, I think.
Yeah.
And so we do.
I would definitely say so. You've had a very successful career, and I think it's something to aspire to, and it's fantastic to kind of hear your journey. And kind of touching on some of those points, I think it would be a bit interesting to hear about, you've mentioned like things like marketing for good and then marketing for change.
Yeah.
Like, what is this all about? Like, what does it all mean? Especially in terms of connecting. We hear a lot of things like connecting data and connecting people to data, and it's increasingly becoming more important today.
Yeah.
So how do you believe all of this plays a role? How does it tie together for you?
So that's very big question, so I'll take it in different pieces,
Yeah.
if that's okay. So if we start with marketing for good. So I had the honour of leading the Marketing Society for many years. Started their marketing manager, first ever membership manager, which is interesting with an organisation of 60 years old, but it was very event focused and lots of events as opposed to real community, and I could see that straight away. And I remember, I think it was Peter Erskine of O2 saying the most important thing, many years ago, the most important thing that a brand can do is put their customers at the heart. So I went back to my then chief executive and I said, we need to put members at the heart of our organisation. I'd rather have 10 people at an event and start building that community than 200 people and there's no real sense of connectedness. So in the lovely way Hugh did, he said, go for it, because he was a wonderful leader. And that's where the journey really began. And it was through that when you see good people coming together, when you see people that care, that's where you can achieve so much together. There's a great proverb that I love, that I think I've used very much as part of my mantra in life, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I truly believe when you have the privilege of being able to lead a community and to build a community, if you can find ways to bring that community together to do good and to make change, then that's what life's all about. So Marketing for Good came from, I actually met this incredible lady, Claire, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but she influenced me hugely. She was worked for the Prince's Trust for many years. She set up a charity for children in care. Yeah. And I ended up, in one taxi journey, this is how good she was, I ended up agreeing to mentor one of her young adults in care. I gave one a work placement at the Marketing Society, and I then sat on her board to advise and help her amazing charity. And I loved being part of that, but what I realised very quickly is, and I know this from life and my crazy life that I live, time is such a rare commodity.
Yeah.
And actually, do I spend time on one charity, or do I bring my members together to do good for hundreds of charities? And that's where Marketing for Good came from. It was about bringing our members together, working with this incredible organisation, Pimp My Cause, who represented lots and lots of good causes, and what we did is it was a summer party on a roof, very glamorous, bit like today, but back in London, slightly less glamorous. And we launched it and we said we'd like our members to be involved and take essentially non-exec director roles in charities and to give their time. And we matched hundreds of members with charities, and so much great stuff happened. And I decided that was a better use of my time to lead that initiative, as opposed to working with one charity, which I did do as well, but actually I was able to make a much bigger impact. And that's what I think life is all about. If you unlock the power of people, because most people are inherently good, most, I say. If you lock the you unlock that power of people, then the stuff that you can do together is phenomenal. And Marketing for Good became a movement, which we then moved into Marketing for Change, which happened when I became Chief Executive of the Marketing Society. So I was Global MD, set up the global community. I was saying before, we were in Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, fancied going to Hong Kong and New York, and so we did. And so now the Society has 7 communities all around the world, from India to Hong Kong to Singapore, etc. And when I became Chief Executive, I felt incredibly vulnerable being in such a big position. I was the youngest Chief Exec, female, the absolute opposite to my brilliant boss, Hugh Burkitt, who I worked with for many years. And I felt incredibly vulnerable being in that position in a very public way as well, in front of the industry. And so my first thing was, do I emulate Mr. Burkitt and be like him? And I realised that actually the only way that I could do it, the only way I could do such a big role, is to be myself. So the Brave agenda started because I wanted to be brave and encourage others to be brave. And that meant talking about things that matter, that are usually behind closed doors. And that started the Brave conversations all around the world, which moved into Marketing for Change, because actually it's one thing to talk about it, do some good, actually let's start to make real change. So that's kind of the journey of those initiatives, hopefully answering that question.
It's brilliant to hear, and I mean,
thank you.
Specifically in like a really short space of time, trying to kind of capture so much of what you have done. And I think I can relate to the complexities of kind of stepping into these challenging roles and kind of being in the public face, definitely not at that scale, but I think it's kind of important. You highlighted something really important to me, which is you pushed for scale. And scale is a big topic right now. Everybody is essentially trying to do that, and it's fantastic to hear that you've managed to be so successful in it. But it's not even the only things that you've been leading the way on. One of the things I specifically wanted to touch on is things like mental health.
Yes.
It's a really big topic right now, specifically post-COVID, well, the idea of being post-COVID. Gender bias. Do you believe that those things are now changing in the digital marketing industry, having had these discussions for so many years?
Yes, because we didn't used to talk about them. They were behind closed doors, and we now do. We now, lots of industry bodies, lots of publications are addressing all the different stigmas. And they didn't used to. You know, our job at the Marketing Society was to talk about marketing, and it's still important, and we should be, you know, championing marketing excellence and effectiveness, and inspiring that leadership. But also I felt through the Brave agenda, and this is how it happened, if you're going to be yourself, your true self, then it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to say, actually, I'm having a bad day. But we didn't ever do those things. It's like, how are you today? Absolutely brilliant, even if you're really, you know, like a swan, like struggling underwater. And so when I became Chief Exec, the first thing I did is I wrote to a bunch of CMOs and said, I'd love you to talk about a time when you failed. And I've never had that. We always talk about case studies and successes. But I want to hear about you. And we just did the most incredible events talking about when people, you know, made mistakes and what they learned from it, because, you know, that's the way you truly grow, right? It's the only way you truly grow.
Also normalizes those people a bit, right? Because I think everybody kind of fears that the one mistake in their life will never get them to be that.
Yeah, no, it took the society into an incredibly human place. So then I was kind of like, right, this is amazing, what can we do next? Let's do an event on mental health. And that was before Prince Harry and everything, where he came out and talked about his own struggles. It's before the industry, we were just not talking about it as an industry.
Absolutely not.
And I remember when I said we're going to do an event on mental health, people thought it was nuts. I was like, just go with it. It'll be great. There was an incredible guy who's an icon of our industry, a true evangelist to use. Which, thank you, by the way, for describing me. Take that. I'm taking it. I've learned to take these things. I used to be like, no. Robin White, like a creative genius. And he said to me, Gemma, I'm bipolar and it makes me better because that's when I have my best ideas, but I've always felt I had to hide it.
Yeah.
So he said to me he would help me create an event on mental health. And then he said straight away, I'll be your speaker. And I said, well, I think I'd love you to take part in the event, but I feel like this is where we can create an event where it's the audience participating. So that was the birth of Fish Bowls, which now I've hosted all around the world on subjects like mental health, and particularly in places like Dubai. They'd never spoken about it in a public place, and Singapore, same. And we sat, fish bowls, there's no fishes, you sit round together and you create comfortable spaces to have quite uncomfortable conversations about things that matter, mental health, gender, race. Did that with Adrian Walcott, a great guy who set up the whole BAME initiative, and he was saying last night that was a real moment in our industry when, let's be honest, you know, it's pretty pale, and it was the one event, and Karen Blackett said it, she spoke, another amazing lady, and she said it's like a fruit salad of people, because it was the first event where we genuinely had diversity, and people said to me, I always thought, you know, I couldn't connect with the marketing society, but now you're talking about these real things. Yeah. I want to be part of it. And so gradually we talked about these subjects, and people opened up things they wouldn't talk about with their close friends, with 100 strangers. And that, the bonds that are created, the connections, because you're putting yourself out there and going for it and being brave and sharing and being vulnerable. And then the help, people say, oh my God, this happened to me, let's talk, like I can help you. So then people are helping and making true connections, which, you know, I think you asked me earlier about connections. For me, that's what life's all about. If you're not connected, then you know, you're not, it's not fun. You know, it's when you're connected with amazing people that that you do some good stuff together.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the moment, right? So here we are, finally connected with people again. We're all networking, and I want to touch on a specific point. You said, like, diversity and inclusion, and you kind of touched on, you know, we've exposed mental health now. We're saying make it a conversation that's okay, and bringing in a bit more colour into our industry. But one of the biggest themes we've definitely seen on the boardwalk was a lot of discussions around women in the industry. Do you think there is a change happening?
Yeah, I think more brands have to. Diversity and inclusion used to be like this bolt-on. It's now, and often there wasn't somebody responsible for it. But everyone needs to be, someone needs to lead it and to really own the agenda, including the chief exec as well. Yeah. But everyone needs to be part of it, because the only way you get greatness is if you have diversity of thought and different minds coming together. And that's where we can achieve some really fantastic work in our industry. And I was at, we were at an event the other day with Ali Hannon, who runs Creative Equals. She's amazing. And she created a panel with some brilliant brands, like Sarah from Merlin, who's a dear friend and a Cabalian, and a lady from the UN. And they talked about how brands need to now take a stand and how important it is. Before we weren't doing that. We were just talking about, you know, getting good work out there and selling our products. Now we are really bringing that into our industry, and we're really talking about these things, and we're really starting to make change. We're not making it quick enough, and but we're trying, and we're coming together. Again, the conversation is at least taking place. Exactly. And you're seeing it more and more, and people are having to really think about their talent and hiring policies. There was a conversation the other day about whether there should be quotas, and one of the marketing directors was very clear. She said if there isn't a quota, we will not get the diversity into our organisation. I'm not sure I agree with that, because I think there's lots of different ways you can do it. But it's the only way forward, but it needs to happen quicker.
No, I 100% agree, and I think it's inspiring to see that there are so many women who are essentially kind of pushing these topics, and there's a lot of supportive men out there as well that kind of recognise the change has to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the only way change is going to happen is if men and women come together. Yeah. So I think there's so many things where, you know, there's male groups and there's female groups. I've always steered clear of that. And at the Marketing Society, it's inclusive to all. Cabal, inclusive to all. Nurture Our Business, inclusive to all. It's so important. Actually, I find myself sometimes trying to, you know, get that balance all the time. Like we hosted an incredible island lunch yesterday, and we were absolutely like looking, you know, how we're doing, because we always have more women. Like, let's get some men involved as well. It's so important. Yeah. And that's where, you know, the good stuff happens, and the fun as well. So.
No, that's brilliant. And I mean, thank you for sharing all of those insights. But before we wrap this up, I do want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah,
so one of the things, or let's say the theme for Cannes is moments that move the world. What do you believe is the moment in the digital industry that essentially moved or changed the industry for good?
So I've had to think about this, and I think there's so many different moments, and it's something we can have a conversation for hours. Yeah. But I think it was when Black Lives Matter started through George Floyd and you know, the terrible murder, because it was captured on camera and then circulated, and the outrage brought people together and said, no more, we cannot do this anymore, and we addressed it. And I remember I was still at the Marketing Society, and I was doing a global conversation, and I felt really nervous about talking about it, because I don't know enough. None of us know enough until we're in that situation, and you're not going to be in that situation because, well, I'm white. So I stood up and I said, we were doing a global conversation, so I can't not talk about this, but I feel uncomfortable because I've never experienced this kind of prejudice, but we need to get people together to have a conversation and say, we cannot have this anymore, we've got to make change. And it felt like that was the movement where things really started changing, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for digital and that capture of that awful moment.
So people are speaking up and they're using digital for it.
Yeah.
And those are one of definitely the big moments that have kind of showed people that speaking up will make a difference.
Yeah.
Fantastic, great summary. And thank you so much for joining us, sharing your story and continuing to inspire us. So
thank you. It's been wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you.